Welcome to The Crafted and Creative, a podcast meant to uplift and engage BIPOC creatives who are on their journey of making a social impact and creating a lasting legacy, as well as create community and a sense of guidance for those that are looking to do the same in their artistry. Today's guest is Leland Gantt. He's an actor, writer, and lifetime member of the Actor Studio. Some of his TV and film credits include Law and Order SVU, Jag, The Affair, Titans, The Good Fight, Hoover versus the Kennedys, and some of his theater credits include Broadway productions of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Fences, Richard III, and Gem of the Ocean, and his one-man show, Raspity and Black, along with so much more. Thank you so much, Leland, for joining me.
Thank you, Deja, for asking me. Appreciate it.
Yes, so happy to have you. So you have such a long resume, and I've seen you work in the studio and like your passion, and seeing someone that has been in the game for so long. How did you get started? What was your journey into becoming an actor?
Well, that's a long answer, I guess. Let me try to truncate it. Basically, it started out with me attempting to find some place to be somebody, it's been a quest for self-esteem and feeling good about myself. I come from McKeesport, Pennsylvania, it's a little town outside of Pittsburgh. And I think getting involved with drama club and the forensic league in high school pretty much saved my life. There was a woman I attribute a lot of credit to, Janet Robb. She spent a lot of energy, getting me ready for these competitions. Now, forensics, you have oral interpretation of dramatic literature, debate, student congress, and you would compete every week, every weekend, actually. So I loved going to the competitions and coming back on Monday, hearing that, Leland Gantt was first in this, first and second in this, So it gave me a sense of myself and self-esteem. I became very enamored of it, just the whole process of acting and the accolades that I would get from it. I remember my first real kiss came backstage after a show, so that let me know too that there were some side benefits to this gig. So it was something that I got involved in, and it was good for me. I didn't really commit to the artistry of acting because I didn't know. It was just something I did that I was good at that gave me a positive, reflection. So I pursued that. Went to college, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, and that wasn't really a university. They had just gotten their accreditation as a university the year before, and they only had one real theater person on the faculty. It was really like a teacher's college before that, and everybody before in my curriculum who were my teachers were English teachers. They didn't know much about acting. But a guy named Michael Malkin, who was a director, he saw something in me and he cast me in Three Penny Opera. Right before that, the summer after high school, I went right to Indiana because I got a scholarship. Right. I should have went to Penn State. I got a scholarship to Penn State and Indiana, but I went to Indiana because my mom wanted me to stay close to home. So, and let that be a lesson to you. Staying close to home is not always the safest bet. Mm. But I got to Indiana. I was there 2 years, year round, got a PhD in partying, flunked out. Then subsequently came home, went back to my mother's house and started looking for things to do around the Pittsburgh area and got involved with a community theater, Camelot Productions. I did Mantle of Mancha there, Godspell there. I met some people there who said that if I wanted to continue this, I should get more training. So I eventually went to Point Park College. And Point Park was the other college in Pittsburgh. The big college was CMU, right, for artistic endeavors. But I think I got the same level of training at Point Park that I did at CMU because a lot of the teachers had taught at CMU and then went on to teach at CMU. So that gave me a little bit more insight to what I could actually do and what I actually had. I majored in acting and directing there. Took a little semester off to do Pippin in that same community theater. I played the leading player, and that was a real boost. So I mean, that's basically how I got started, looking for self-esteem, looking to get some dates.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to college, I realized that, I really had something, and it became a calling for me. So I pursued it. I had a little digression for a minute. I met a woman in the play Pippin, and her father and mother were looking for something to get their daughter out into the world. They came to see Pippin. I had suggested that Keely be part of Pippin because she was an acrobat, contortionist, dancer, and they were looking for people, with special skills to be part of the ensemble. So that brought mom and dad. Mom and dad saw me do Pippin, and they decided that they were going to bankroll the Leland Gantt show. So for the next 2-3 years, I was running around the country doing a Las Vegas style review with Keely and Linda and myself out front, 2 women in these, Las Vegas style costumes with the big headpieces and the skimpy costumes. I had the, white bowler and 3-piece gabardine suit. So we did that for a few years, and that eventually fell apart, and I came back to the city. And long story short, I moved to New York in '84. And things just started happening for me, man. I got William Greaves, whom, he's no longer with us, but this man, the more I found out about him, the more fortunate I realized I was, because he asked me, because I had sent out resumes to a casting director, Sarah Hyde Hamlet, never forget it. Apparently I looked like I could be the son of the actor playing Frederick Douglass in William Greaves' documentary, Frederick Douglass in American Life. So I was on set for one day. I shot one scene. I don't think it even made it into the movie. But William called me up one day when I was on the road with Ain't Misbehaving, and asked me if I wanted to audition for this workshop he was going to be doing at Sundance. Now, I never heard of Sundance. I didn't know what Sundance was. I knew who Robert Redford was, but I had no idea what this thing was all about. All I just knew that, I'd like to do that. We could never really get it together, though, because I was on the road, and so our schedules never really meshed. Eventually, he found somebody he could use. And I said, well, I could do this audition now. He says, well, Leland, I've already found somebody. And I said, well, William, since you called me because you saw what I did, which I thought was nothing, on one day on your set, let me come in and show you what I can actually do so you can get a better look at me. So I went in and did an audition. I read with his wife, Louise. And by the time I got back home to Queens, my phone was ringing. So he took me out to Sundance, and that's how I got involved in the Actors Studio. Because, all those people were out there, Carlin Glenn, Pete Masterson, Charlene Woodard, Michael Wright. I mean, the list just goes on and on. I worked with Morgan Freeman out there, Quinn, what was Tony Quinn's son, Cynthia Nixon was out there, just a bunch of people working on film and workshopping projects. And from there, I got a guest observership at the studio. I auditioned with Charlene. We both got finalist position. I auditioned again, didn't get in, and I auditioned the third time with a compilation of a monologue from No Place to Be Somebody and the Senate speech from Othello. And Patty Ewald and I can't remember his name now. And the present artistic director decided to give me membership. So I've been a member since '88. And that started me on the journey to where I am now. And it's all attributable to William Greaves, who saw something in me that allowed me to flower and grow. And it's been my artistic home and my gymnasium ever since, the Actors Studio. So
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's literally just one thing to the next and having someone believe in you, even though other people were believing in you and pushing you along and, you were getting opportunities. Was it always something that you knew that, oh, this is going to be something that I can make money from? Was it still kind of in your mind, oh, this is just something that I'm doing because people see it for myself? Or when did it become actual opportunities for you to earn money or to be like your livelihood?
Well, I got to the city, and I started working almost immediately. My first gig was playing in the Fantastics. I played El Gallo in the Fantastics in New Jersey, off street. It was like a dinner theater, and I got a manager as a result of the director calling my manager, Roxy Haran. She's no longer with us, but he asked her to come out and look at the guy playing the boy.
Mm-hmm.
But she liked me. So she called me and says, well, I'd like to represent you. I said, well, when I get back from shooting this movie, because I had auditioned for a non-union film. It was called Rock and Road Trip. No, it was called Summertime Blues, and it was released as Rock and Road Trip. So I was down in North Carolina for like 6 weeks. And when I came back, we started our journey. She hooked me up with an agent, Pat Howe, and it was on. I started booking regional theater gigs. My first regional theater gig was playing. Oh, my mind is getting a little blank here. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I played the lead in that, and that was directed by L. Kenneth Richardson. And it just went on from there. I just started working. And so it was working that made me feel like, oh, I can work.
Mm-hmm.
And I started, booking some things. Along the way, William Greaves raising his head again. He was involved with some people in Canada because, William did a whole stint in Canada. So he had connections up there in the artistic community. And they were looking for somebody to play Martin Luther King in a miniseries for NBC called Hoover versus the Kennedys. And it was about 11:30 in terms of, we're going to get this started at 12 o'clock. And they said, well, why don't you come up to Toronto and audition? And I went up there, and Daniel O'Hurley, he said, well, you got the gig. So one of my first gigs after moving to the city in 84, I think this happened at about 85, 86. I'm playing Martin Luther King in a nationally televised miniseries called Hoover versus the Kennedy. Mm. And, of course, everybody in McKeesport thought I was a star. I just knew it was another job, But, one thing led to the next thing, and as these things do. Mm-hmm. So when did I realize that I could make money? When I started making money. That's going to tell you everything you need to know. Right. You can make money because you're making money.
Right, right.
I had no idea how far I could go. I felt like I was on track to do some things. But I hit a couple bumps, and made a couple of bad decisions. And I can't say the bottom fell out, but I went away to study to be a massage therapist for about 16 months. And by the time I got back, the question was, Leland who? I had been pretty much forgotten. So it's been a struggle trying to get back on board ever since that. But I've had a very fulfilling and wonderful career. I played Iago opposite Delroy Lindo in Othello. One of my first regional theater gigs was playing Othello at the Florida State University. I did that miniseries on TV. I've done a lot of work.
Absolutely.
And I intend to do a lot more work before I'm done.
Yes, ashe. And so when you were coming into auditioning and, in the 80s up until now, I know you spoke to feeling like, you've had some changes, you had some redirections, but outside of that, how has the industry changed for you? Now everything is self-tapes, everything is this virtual landscape. do you feel like the politics of that has shifted for you?
Um, it's hard to talk about it in terms of politics because, you just never know.
Right.
Ultimately, you walk into an audition, you either get it or you don't. And that's how you have to leave it. I didn't get it because somebody else did. Why? Don't know. I've walked into so many auditions that, that I project a certain age range and look. And you'll walk into the audition and you'll see somebody, like they're looking for somebody to play 50s.
Mm-hmm.
I'll walk into the audition and there's somebody about, he's on death's door, looking like 78, 90 years old. There's somebody looking like 25 to 30. So then that they don't know what it is they're looking for. Even before the pandemic hit and the major paradigm shift happened, you came to realize that these folk were, waiting, looking for the exact thing that they wanted to come through the door, no matter what you yourself could do.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of actors that can do a lot of different things, one thing about auditioning process, a friend of mine, Keith David, I told him about an experience I had because I went into an audition and told this casting director, well, I could do it like this or I could do it like that. Which would you like? And most casting directors, I don't want to throw too much shade, but they're not artistic people, So it was so confusing to her that I didn't get a call back. And I talked to because I thought I nailed both choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to my buddy, he said, Leland, go in there with one idea and do that, because these casting directors, you'll confuse them with stuff like that. So, you learn the art of auditioning, just like in college, you learn the art of taking a test, you know what I mean? So it is a craft to go in and audition and make the room yours so
Mm-hmm.
that you are comfortable and able to present yourself to the best of your ability.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know what you're doing and you're well prepared, the boogaboo of nerves, which are gonna happen.
Right.
If you want something, it's gonna happen. Then you're better able to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, moving forward, the paradigm shift from in-person auditions, where at least you had a shot to be with somebody in, energy. There's a certain thing that can be communicated over this format, but there's nothing like the energetic interaction when you're in a room with somebody face to face. Now, when you take that away, the possibilities, of you changing somebody's mind or giving them something ineffable, that they didn't really know or going to hit them on another visceral level is gone. And then you deal with the fact that I'm an actor. I'm not a technician. What do I know about lighting? What I know about lighting, I learned on the set. I know how to find it, but do I know how to focus it?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So now you become a technician and you have to set up your pod, you have to set up your ring light, you got to set all this stuff up. And by the time you've done that, you're like, let me try to chill out to get ready to do my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a partner, or you do have a partner that can read, you're dealing with their schedule. So there are all these things that kind of interfere with, provide hurdles to you getting to where you need to be to actually perform the audition.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even when you do all of those things, I've heard stories that they click on your audition. If the light's not right, they don't even look at your audition. They click on an audition, they look at you and nah, he's not right. Various and sundry things. If you don't get your audition in well before the deadline, you might not even be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Your life, you get an audition call tonight to have it ready in 2 days. And they want it in 2 days delivered.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I work. I got to find somebody. And so if you can drop your life that you're doing to support your life and do that and get it in there like first, second. If you're not in the first group of auditions that they look at, you won't even be seen. Whereas back in the day, you could wait all day for an EPA call.
Mm-hmm.
and, at least get seen.
Right.
you know?
Right.
But that has kind of morphed into something else. And it's not beneficial to the actor. Yeah, I think it really demeans the actor, right? It mitigates what the actor brings. And, most folks already know what it is they want. Most folks already have made a decision about who they're going to use. And, it's like throwing a bottle in the ocean at the best of times. And
Mm-hmm.
now, it's throwing a bottle in the ocean beset by a hurricane. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's really kind of, it's crazy. And you have to try to pick your spots.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go through a whole lot of machinations trying to do something that just to do something, to
Mm-hmm.
please my agent, or to be seen, or, I got to find some place. And any artist, any actor in these times and days has to find something within themselves or in their world to give them the ability psycho-emotionally to go on,
Yeah.
and to stay. And Deja, it's always been a process of re-upping, throughout your
Mm-hmm.
whole career. You hit things that make you have to decide to stay or go.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to choose this relationship over your career. You're going to choose this thing over that thing. Am I going to re-up? Am I actually going to stay in this thing at all? Is it giving me what I need?
Mm-hmm.
You make your choices thinking that something is going to happen, and that thing you think is in the palm of your hand causes you to lose everything. Like, I shot a movie in a 95, yeah, and made the most money that I'd
Mm-hmm.
ever made shoot the film. And it wasn't that much money, right? It wasn't even six figures. It was middle, high, 5 figures.
Mm-hmm.
And I got this accountant who I ended up owing money to the government. And that put me in a financial deficit because my accountant made a mistake. So it was the best thing that happened to me turned into the worst thing that happened to me. I did a play that I thought was going to put me on board. It was an August Wilson play, but because of things happening beyond my control,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't stay with the play. The play went on. Everybody else that was in the play went on with the play,
Mm-hmm.
but I did not. Now, there are a couple of things that happened in the play that I could say, well, that's why, or that's why,
Mm-hmm.
but I never knew. I don't know to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody that should give me an answer have already transitioned. So I will never know. But I thought it was the best thing that happened to me. I was out in Los Angeles. I had already booked a TV thing, JAG. I had gotten a movie, a little part in a movie, and I had gotten agents that were great agents. And because of my dumbass, when I left to do the play,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't talk to my agent. I didn't talk to the director who cast me, who had been rehearsing me intermittently. I didn't, I just burned those relationships in my, zeal
Mm-hmm.
to do this play that I thought was going to put me on board.
And that's my thing too as an actor, where we want to do both. Like for me, I know I want to do film and TV, and I had an experience similar. I was in a show. I was getting paid dust for this show, and I had gotten I had gotten pinned. I was still auditioning. I was still trying to like, well, maybe if I still, audition for this show, then maybe they can find an understudy, just find an understudy out of nowhere.
Right.
We didn't have understudies, but I was in that phase of like just taking and doing anything and not communicating to my reps. And at the time I had gotten pinned, and I was so used to not getting pinned or not hearing anything back that I was like, oh, I might have to leave this show to go do this other show. But then I had felt guilty because they're like, no, Deja, we can't find an understudy out of nowhere. Like, you have to be here for the show or the show won't happen. And I had told my agent, like, oh, do you think, I have a show? And my crazy self was like, well, can they like reschedule, or, I'm available these days. My agent's like, well, no, you have to pick and choose. Are you going to do film or are you going to do theater? And that was the first time that I was like, what? Like, I actually have to say no to things. I'm so used to, as an actor, just having to grab at everything to have a career. So how do you
Right.
navigate that? How do you pick and choose what projects you do, and juggling the finances of it all?
Well, you just your best shot is the viscera, your gut feeling, because everybody's having an agenda. Your agent is going to have an agenda. They may have plans for you. They may think that you're on the rise to do this, and they're trying to put you in that direction. They may just want the 15%, the 10%, whatever. Who knows? You know, um, you don't know. You don't know, and it's always a decision at the time. Here's a story. An actor that I worked with in Pittsburgh, he was tall, rangy, uh, was a dancer, graceful, talented, handsome, right? He wanted to do theater, right? He had an opportunity to work at the Guthrie, right? But he was in Los Angeles and he was doing a recurring role on this TV series. And the Guthrie said, no, you can't do both. You either have to give up the TV series and come work at the Guthrie, or stay out there. I mean, I think that was one of the things that made him end up being a doctor now. You know what I'm saying? Because that was so frustrating for this brother. You never know what is the best thing to do. Now, if you have good advice, if you have good representation, if you have a mentor that could, you can bounce things off of, help in making a decision, and all they can tell you is what they think is going to be best for you. Bottom line is you're going to make the choice for yourself. And ultimately, you as an artist have to determine what it is you want. Ultimately, do I want a career in film? Right? There used to be a time when if you got a Broadway show, your career in film was almost sure, because they're looking for Broadway trained actors. Somebody on Broadway, yeah, we're going to pick them to come in and do this show. Well, that's not necessarily the case anymore. You can't even win a Tony and get a movie no more. You know what I mean? So it's a difficult thing, and I don't know what to tell you or how to tell you to navigate that. It's a very personal thing, and it's a decision made in the moment with the information you have at hand. And ultimately, the thing that you can always point to and can't blame nobody else for is your gut feeling. You develop over time. I'm listening to my gut. My gut has never steered me wrong, so I'm going to go with my gut. That becomes a little more complicated if your gut has steered you wrong a couple times. But I mean, what else do we have? That's all we have, is the sense within ourselves of what is best for us. It may not end up being the way you wanted it to be, but at least you made a decision based on what you thought was best for yourself at the time. And that's all any artist has, man. That's it. If you don't have you, who else you got? So
yeah,
that's a personal decision, and I'll be willing to talk with somebody about it, but ultimately, they're going to have to do what they feel they need to do.
Right, to guide your own career.
Yeah.
And going back to the studio, you've been a member at the studio for a long time. What do you feel like? I feel like we've heard all these things about the celebrities that have been at the studio, Marilyn Monroe, and it's become this kind of like mythical thing. What do you feel like is the most misconceived thing about the studio that you've heard?
Well, the most misconceived, there are a couple of things. And a couple of them haven't been too wrong. I mean, it's been perceived as a lily white organization, right? And for the longest time it was, even when I came in to the Actors Studio in '88. I mean, there was Gerald Orange, there was Calvin Levels, and there may have been a few other people of color that I didn't run into. I don't know when Barbara Portier came through, But there weren't many of us,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and which is kind of wacky because Frank Silvera was the first person of color in the actor studio way back when it got started. And he was from Jamaica, right? William Greaves was one of the few actors of color in the actor studio way back when. He was the first person of color to audition and get in to the studio. Because prior to that, they were like snatching people from Broadway to come in, you know. Well, it is no longer that way, right? We have a Latin artistic director at the actor studio, you know, Javi Molina, you know. We have a huge BIPOC membership now at the actor studio. And yeah, it took a while to get there, but that preconception, that perspective, or that perception is no longer valid. So I'd have to say that's a misconception. The fact that if you get into the actor's studio, that all of a sudden he's going to put you on board, that's also a lie. You know, that unless you do the work and work on your machine, on your instrument to get you to a place where you can like show your best work, which is what the studio provides for an artist, that gymnasium to work on all those muscles, to work to strengthen those things where you're short, and you know, find the places where you're cracked so you can mend them. You know, just being a member of the actor's studio, you know, is at one point in time it may have given you some cachet, right? I don't believe that that's correct anymore. A lot of people come in, become members, and split. That's all they wanted, was that on their resume. To this day, I don't know how much good that does them, you know. Okay, so you got in, but you're not taking advantage of the joint. I don't know, man. Through the years, there's been I've had a lot of ups and downs in the studio. That's a tough question, Deja. You know, preconceptions, misconceptions about the studio.
Yeah, I think yeah, for sure. I want to, you know, going back to it being a lily white space, you know, which it is changing. Thankfully, I have some peers of mine that got in, which I'm so happy for them to get into that space. But for you, seeing the changes, how did you navigate it, being the one of the only few that come in and do work and put up work amongst a white audience, a white, you know, peers? How did you navigate that space?
Like I said, I had my ups and downs. I have to give up some stories. William Greaves, one of the reasons that he became a director and went to Canada was because he did not feel safe at that point in time, you know, post World War II, of being a Black man in this organization that was lily white, right? Here's a place that wants you to do this in a space and time when racism was rampant, right? I know of a brother that, you know, was told, how can you work on that? That's not something you should work on, because he was working on something that was white and he wasn't. You know, this is commentary from the gallery. I mean, I had to leave for a minute because I felt the moderator at the time had stopped a scene before she and I got started. It was a scene between lovers that were trying to navigate their relationship. And before we got 3 sentences out, it was stopped. Oh, that's not the work we do here. And I think it was because this person could not countenance a Black man having a romantic relationship with this white woman, you know. And I left for a minute behind that. I mean, I'm stalking, you know what the studio looks like, and you know what a moderator chair is. And I'm walking left to right, trying to, you know, to keep my monster from coming out on this person, you know. And the rest of the people in the bleachers allowed this shit to happen. So it's like, ultimately, I came back because of what I needed for me. You know, a knife can be used to cut somebody open to make changes and repairs in a human body. slice up your food, can be very utilitarian in a positive fashion. But that same knife can eviscerate you, cut your heart out, scar you for life. You know, it's a tool. And how the tool is used is everything. Mm-hmm. So it was something I needed, a tool that I needed, and I wasn't going to let anybody take that from me. Mm. So you have to develop a thick skin in this place, in this business, wherever you are, you know. And frankly, there were people at the studio, Carlin Glenn for one, who championed me, who, you know, I took classes, I mean, virtually for free. She had an acting class at the ATA, $25 a class. I didn't have that money, $25 a class. I mean, back in those days, I didn't have $25, a lot of money. But, you know, the fact that I wanted to be in the studio, the fact that I wanted to work on myself as an actor was enough for her to say, come on in, you know. And she was, you know, a mainstay of the studio, one of the pillars of the modern day studio. You know, people would use me as a finalist and a guest observer in the PD unit, you know, because they saw me do something, and they'd tag me and come on and do this. And, you know, so when I got those opportunities, I did the best I could to show the best work that I had, to give the best possible reflection of myself to these people, presentation of myself to these people. So, you know, that's how I navigated it. Because ultimately, I saw it as something beneficial for me. Getting back to that thing about know yourself and know what it is you want and need. You know, to thine own self be true. Mm. But you can't do that unless you know who it is. And one of the things that happened in my experiences at the studio is it helped me to understand and realize who I was and what I wanted. Mm. And that's the best advice I can give anybody. You know, if it's there for you to have, then you have to decide whether you're going to let somebody else keep you from getting it.
Mm. As younger Black generations are continuing to come into the studio and be members, what else can, you know, we do to integrate more change into the studio and to make more community and space for ourselves in that space that you haven't seen before? That you
well, we're doing it right now. You know, what I have done personally as trying to have that happen. We had a 75-year anniversary a couple of years ago in what is it now, 22, 75-year anniversary. Because we were established in 47, yeah. I decided that I wanted to celebrate the BIPOC membership of the studio, past, present, and future. So I got together James Baldwin, No Place to Be Somebody, Lorraine Hansberry. These are people, members of the studio. Lorraine Hansberry, signed in Cindy Bernstein's window. Philip Hayes Dean, oh man, it was a really deep piece that I can't remember the name of now. Paul Calderon directed it. And the fourth one, yeah, Charles Gordon, No Place to Be Somebody. I chose these 4 plays from the historic membership to be performed by present members and possible future members, finalists at the studio. We called it The Color Line, Tales from the Color Line, you know, and cast these pieces. I picked Paul Calderon and Pat Floyd and I'm forget these people's names, right? Joanne, you know, Joanne.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I
so, you know, I picked 4 directors and I picked my horses and let them run. And I had a vision, right? That I thought that it was going to be one thing, and these folks took it into a whole other direction. Marcus Naylor was the other director. Took it in a direction that I didn't anticipate, but I'll be damned if it wasn't like a hit. it blew people's minds. It was like, wow, see, this is what we have here. This is what we need to nurture here. This is what we need to have more of here. I couldn't have made the statement in any better way than that. So be the change. Do things that you feel need to be done. Delissa Reynolds, has gotten together a whole list of BIPOC people. She addresses the work BIPOC members do outside of the studio. I mean, and it's communicating with the studio and other membership. So it's not enough to just be. You have to be active. You have to be the change that you want to see, and do the things necessary, or that you can, whatever is necessary. Do the things you can do in order to make this thing happen. As a result of that, we had a Latin night, because the Latino population of the studio came together. Ariesto. now they got together with this other, the other Latin people of the studio, and had a night of work. And again, it was like, boom. I mean, this stuff hit like Hiroshima. So, and to know this, for the younger people coming into the studio with aspirations of membership, to know that there's a place for them, right? That yes, it's not going to be just a lily white organization going forward, because it no longer is, which means that you have a better shot at getting in based on what you do, not necessarily on how you look, to let them know that, yeah, come on through. The environment has changed. The vibe has changed. I feel like I've been a part of that change. I think Javi's a part of that change. I think Martha's a part of that change. And there are people actively working to bring this change about, and to make this organization a more realistically diverse population.
Yes. Which that was the first time that I had ever seen anything like that at the studio, and it's wild to think that events like that hasn't happened, or work like that hasn't been displayed in that way beforehand. Because I can remember being a student at the Actor Studio Drama School and not necessarily feeling completely welcomed in that space, or feeling, so it's great to know that you all are working internally to try to make the space more inclusive, because people are craving that type of work and community, especially coming into New York City, which is so big and so vast. I mean, you feel alone. And so actors, we definitely need that space. What would you say for auditions that they're looking for scenes, starting from that point?
If you want to audition for the studio, pick a scene with a dramatic arc. You start one place and you end another place. Pick a scene that's close to you, something that you can achieve that shows your strength. The studio is based on the method. Now, it's not the only thing. The major thrust of the training, or the ethos of the studio, is the method, and that contains a sense memory, sensory recall, and imagination. So you want to come in there with an arc, with a strong sense of your character. But, you might want to, it would be helpful for you to let us know where you are, the space. Are you in your mama's house? You out in the woods somewhere? You in your kitchen? Are you in a gymnasium? And let us know where you are. And that takes the imagination and the sensory recall, or at least the fabrication of something that you believe, because if you believe it, we'll see it, right? So these are the planks in that particular platform. Let us know where you are. The relationship with the person who, which is more of a Meisner technique. But again, if you come in with a person, we want to know where the two of you are and what that person means to you. All these things that when you see out on the street, or in your life every day, oh, I know what these folk are. I know what they mean to one another. And now I want to know what the hell is going on, right? So the whole purpose of the audition is as much as possible to convey a moment of reality in time. Where are you? What do you want? And what does the person you're with mean to you? Damn, I said that.
Mm-hmm. You did.
That's the best way I've ever said that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. No, that was a word. That was a word. I want to, since it does involve a lot of the method, even from your audition to being in session and being up and showcasing your work, I've heard a lot of rhetoric around, and I understand, being a Black body, as to how maybe the method can kind of have some negative implications for Black actors, because of the fact you have to use certain things that require you to use recall. And a lot of us may come from certain situations that are traumatic and calling up trauma, essentially. How do you suggest that Black actors combat that?
Well, one of the things that has been a staple of advice from the studio is there should be at least 7 years between that traumatic event and your attempt to pervade or access that event. It's got to be on your hands. You have to have power over it and not have it have power over you, right? The basic thing is we want to know who you are. We want to see who you are. And that means doing this, and some people come in and they're like, well, we want to see more of you. What's keeping you from doing that? That's part of your journey. That's part of your job, and that doesn't have a color, what the individual journey has been, what the group of experiences that you may have had in your life, whatever those have been, are going to be endemic to that particular person, whatever color they are, wherever they came from, the Ozarks or Los Angeles. I mean, that's very personal, right? You got to figure out how to navigate that landscape within yourself. That doesn't have a color, Deja. I mean, yeah, as a Black woman, you're going to bring stuff in a white woman is not, but as a Black woman, you're not going to be able to touch some of the stuff a white woman can bring. For one thing, a sense of entitlement. When does a Black person have a sense of entitlement in this country? You know what I mean? But white people know entitlement like, strawberry shortcake. You know what I'm saying? So that's something we can aspire toward to make the landscape of our artistic ground more full, more diverse, but bring what it is you bring, as long as you are in charge of it and it is not in charge of you.
Wow. I want to touch on your one-man show, Black Rhapsody.
Rhapsody in Black. Yeah.
Yes. I want to touch on that. How important was it for you to write that story? Because you do use a lot of your own, experiences, your own troubles with going through teenage years and the ups and downs of that. How important was it for you to put that out there?
It was all important. I think I grew as an artist more as a result of doing that show, or writing that show and performing that show, than any other singular event in my life. I had always been wanting to write something, and I thought that, well, when I stepped off to become a massage therapist and the interest in me from the industry waned, I decided I was going to take things in my own hands and write something that was going to put me on the map again. So I'm looking at 9 different monologues, do 9 different characters, because you hear about a one-man show, a one-person show, they're doing all these characters, these 16 characters, 25 characters. I just want to do 9 characters. So I wrote 9 monologues, and they all, from people who knew me, said they sounded like me. So failure. That didn't work. But I also got some good advice too. Take these stories, cannibalize them, make them your own, and put them on a timeline, perhaps. Now, I'm a Black man married to a white woman. My sister's oldest son, oldest child, is married to a white woman. My brother is married to a white woman. I know a bunch of brothers married to white women. And my question was, and me and Dorian were on his porch, and I'm thinking, man, why is so many black men married to white women, man? What's up with that? And I'm asking this question, and we're kicking it around. We never came to a conclusion, but it made me realize that every major decision in my life had been influenced by racism. I said, well, damn. I mean, I live in a ghetto. If it wasn't for racism, there wouldn't be a ghetto, you know? And because of this ghetto, I had this succinct envelope of choices, you know? And I began to realize that this and that almost took me here because of that. And I started writing those kinds of things. My life as a child. And like I said earlier on, so much of my life has been a quest for self-esteem, trying to find some place to be somebody, to look at myself in the mirror and see something worthy, you know. And this journey of going back to excavate my life and the events in my life that were responsible for me being what I was and who I was and the choices that I made. And my first it moment when racism, because, you know, I'm in the ghetto. You grow up in the ghetto, there's a bunch of black people. You know, there could be some white folks or some, you know, Puerto Rican folks, you know, but for the most part, you're surrounded by black people, right? So that's a whole world. And then you step out. I mean, the biggest event of my life at the time was going from McKeesport to Pittsburgh, which is like 17 miles northwest, which is like, oh, wow. And I only went down there to shop at Kaufman's, you know? So it wasn't like I was living down there. I go down and I come back, right? So I'm in high school, and there was an event because this was when King had been assassinated, Bobby Kennedy had been assassinated, Hampton had been assassinated a long time ago. And, you know, it was like the Black Panthers and the Black Muslims were on the rise, and white folks were scared shitless. And so in my high school, and this is in my play, it was the it moment when racism reared its ugly head and hit me in the face. You know, I got called the N-word in a forum in front of a bunch of white people, which kind of started the monster in Leland, you know. So from that moment on, I developed a huge mantle of hate and resentment toward the white man, right? And how that developed and unfolded was like, you know, drugs, alcohol. This was the that was what I was medicating, that hate and resentment. But it led me down to, you know, I had to medicate something, because either I was going to kill somebody or I was going to kill myself. And if I had, you know, really dove into the medication part, I might have killed myself anyway, right? But it just enabled me to maintain a KV where I was able to go on and not really realize that I eventually became the thing that I hated. I became a bigot fighting racism, which was, wow, that's a deep, deep journey. And, you know, so I discovered it. I tried to metabolize it, tried to medicate it in order to metabolize it. And then I decided I was going to fight it. And when I fought it, that's all I could see. Every white person was a racist, you know, until I found some white people who weren't. And that was kind of, well, I mean, you're supposed to be a racist. Like, what's happening? You know, so I'm having my Matrix moment. Because I'm meeting white folk who do not fit the profile that I had built for white folks.
Mm.
When that happened, that's how I came to understand that I had become a bigot, and that all of this stuff, all this racism stuff, was making me something I did not ultimately want to be. So I had a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I could jettison it. Well, no, the choice was accepting me, because when I found that, I had to forgive myself. I forgave myself. And in forgiving myself, I was able to see the more subtle information. I was able to see the grays instead of the blacks and the whites. It didn't make me like them any better, but it didn't make me understand them. It helped me to understand folks a little better. It did give me the room to give them an opportunity to show me on which side of the line they actually fell, and whether or not they're straddling it, and the tools that I could engender in myself to try to make a difference, to put those people straddling the line to fall in my direction, as opposed to beating them over the head and making them do something. So this whole journey made me more of a human being as opposed to just a black man. I was so focused on black that the man part had taken a back seat. So when I found the man, that enabled me to be a human and to accept humanity and stroll in that direction. And that opened up everything.
Wow.
Everything. So when I say the journey starts with knowing who you are, that's a very personal revelation. And if I could share anything with anybody, that's the most important thing to know. Who you are. And once you got it, nobody can take it away from you unless you let them. You got to give it away. But when you have it, it's yours. That's gold.
It is.
So that's the show. That's what the show did for me. So I go around the country illustrating my life and giving a window onto a landscape to white people about where this black person comes from, where this kid is, what happened with this kid, and the choices that they had, which made them make the decisions they made, and the events in their lives that put them on board to do this, and the possibilities of transcending all of this madness to the point where you can become a human being and look at everybody as human beings who happen to have kiwi, who happen to be strawberry, who happen to like vanilla ice cream as opposed to chocolate ripple, but they're human beings with various tastes and descriptions. And I mean, that's why they call it a smorgasbord, right? Because you got all these flavors, right? So, yeah.
Wow. What keeps you lifted outside of doing the work of an actor and doing the work of a storyteller, which is, pouring so much of yourself out? How do you pour into yourself? The
Pour into
activity.
myself.
Like, what do you do outside? Are you nature? Are you reading a good book?
The one thing that I do that helps me is my meditation. I'm a pocket billiard player. I shoot pool. I know it's crazy. It sounds crazy, but some people go out into nature and commune. Some people go into therapy. I get on that 9-foot by 4-foot green with 6 holes in it, and I try to make that white ball do what I want it to do. I've been shooting pool since I was knee high to a grasshopper, and to make a shot and have that ball come to a perfect position for the next shot, it takes a certain amount of focus and concentration, right? So when the world starts getting me down, I'm pissed off at my wife, I'm upset about the latest video I just saw about them beating down a black man. I go and I commune with myself on that pool table. And I do the thing that gives me a sense of control, right? Because so many things try to take control away from you, you know, helpless, hapless, hopeless. No, I need to be able to control something. So ultimately, I have to control myself. So putting me on that pool table and making that ball do what I wanted to do, you know, and it ain't always successful. You know, I have a high percentage of success, but it ain't always successful. Sometimes I can't get there no matter what I do, but that's what I do. That's my meditation. That's the thing that keeps me afloat. And of course, humanity politics. I mean, you got to know what that is, right? The politics of humanity. I mean, everybody has a reason for everybody has a reason for what it is they're doing. That junkie is a junkie because they're medicating something. So if you can think about that, it's not just this worthless, hapless, non-human thing. Mm-hmm. It's a human being that's in pain. And that changes the paradigm. It changes everything. Humanity politics. So control of yourself so that you don't go off and see George Floyd video and kill somebody, which, you know, we want to do, you know, but you're not going to help nobody if you're in jail or you transition, right? So take that energy and channel it somewhere else. And that's what my artistic aspiration does for me. That's how I keep my thing in control on the pool table so that I can then be in a position to translate it into my craft.
Beautiful. So beautiful. What's next for you and where can people find you?
Well, I'm still trying to do Rhapsody in Black and keep that on tour. I might have some dates in January. I haven't talked to my agent in a couple of minutes, but you know, first thing I'm gonna do is recover from this hip surgery, which is 3 weeks in. I'm going to continue work at the studio. I haven't quite determined what exactly it is I want to do. I've got a play knocking around in my head that I haven't been able to get to. I don't have a hook in it. It's like trying to write a tune without a hook. I don't have a hook in it. There's a piece that I've already written that I want to get back to. I've been thinking about copywriting it and maybe talking to somebody about making it a short because I think it's dope. It's dark, but I think it's dope. So I want to expand myself as a writer, and I want to teach Deja. I think I have something to offer, you know, artists, young and old, because of my experiences and you know the way I see things. I think I have something to offer. So these are the things I want to do. I want to expand myself as a writer, and I want to move up into teaching and share. So and all the while. Attempting to work as much as possible as an actor.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's definitely befitting for you to teach. I'm so rooting for you. Let me know if you have any classes. Definitely come. I definitely come through.
Excellent. Yes, it's going to be coming through sooner than you think. I think as soon as I get this recovery thing behind me, I got a couple irons in the fire. We're going to try to bring out into the public light. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Crafted and Creative. Give us a like, comment, review on YouTube, iTunes, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.